Hi, hey, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Concerning Content, right here on youtube.com/online with Oscar. And you know what that means, boys, girls, NBs? We did it. We hit the first proper milestone. We're at 128 subscribers as I'm recording. I know that a lot of you guys only came here from the last video, which did crazy well, by the way. Thank you for that. And thank you to everybody who left amazing comments. It made my heart very happy. And thank you to everybody who subscribed. I hope you enjoy your stay here, and I hope to see you in the comment section. Because I like talking to you guys, man. It's cool. And I could get a lot more sappy about all this, but unfortunately, this is not the video. Today, we've got bigger fish to fry, namely Ben Shapiro. He recently uploaded a video called, and I shit you not, The Real History of Feminism that the leftists don't want you to know about. The title alone gives off the same kind of energy as, I don't know, Alex Jones talking about ducks, I guess, and how you can take them home if you wanna. Since I don't have any poopy little babies in my audience, at least according to YouTube statistics, I don't think I have to explain who Ben Shapiro is. But in case I do have some poopy little babies that are watching this video and are not subscribed, I'm just gonna, explain that. If you already know who Ben Shapiro is, skip to this timestamp and see you there. If you don't know who Ben Shapiro is a debater and public speaker for far-right ideologies. A lot of people like to hone in on him because he debates early 20-year-olds in his late 30s, with him holding the obvious advantage because usually the room that they are debating in is filled with people that advocate for the same things that he advocates for. And of course the fact that these poor college students didn't actually have PR training. Me, however, I'm better than that. I think Ben Shapiro is a joke because he's debating people that are much younger than him and don't have PR training, but he also uses logical fallacies. And I don't just mean one or two, I mean his public speaking mainly consists of them. And even though he does this, he declares himself a warrior of facts and logic. When Ben made his first appearance on the internet, a lot of people thought he was very big brain, and as much as I hate to admit it, I was one of them. This was because of the climate on YouTube at the time, but also just that we didn't know that he lied as much as he does. These days, however, looking at your screen and seeing a Ben Shapiro video makes you want to destroy it the second it pops up. Naturally, that kind of content is my favorite because I get to make fun of it. And in this case, even bully Ben because I just dislike him that much. So yeah, without further ado, get comfy, grab a snack, grab a drink, even your blanket. You're gonna need it.
Why have I got this blanket? They keep putting this blanket on me.
Yeah, it's for shock.
I'm not in shock.
Let's dive into this mess. Alright guys, so I'm a bit deeper into the recording than I am in the video, I guess. I'm gonna be keeping two tallies, one in that corner, one in that one. This tally keeps, the amount of times Ben actually tells the truth, but there's a little twist. Once Ben tells a lie, this tally resets. And the goal of this video is basically to see if Ben can get to 5. And this side is gonna keep a tally of the amount of logical fallacies that Ben uses in this video to prove his point. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video and love you, bye. Mwah.
It's hard to look at the world today and not to be confused.
Oh my, Ben, you're confused? I'm sorry to hear that. Let me help you out. Tell me what confuses you and I'll try to explain it to you.
Why are so many people in favor of abortion on demand all the way up till birth?
Oh, Ben, I know you're a busy man. After all, you have to walk twice as far as most people to get anywhere with those cute little legs of yours. But that doesn't really excuse poor research. One Google search could have shown you that 79% of pro-choice advocates actually are anti-late-stage abortion. And in the future, if you want to stop spreading misinformation, like a rat spreading the bubonic plague during the Middle Ages, I suggest you do just that. One Google search takes you a few seconds, so I don't really see why you got this wrong. But as I said, you're a busy man.
Why are so many people believers that men can be women and women can be men?
Yet again, I have to do your research for you, Ben. And I'm starting to think that you're doing this on purpose. What am I saying? You wouldn't lie to your sheeple. After all, you say things like facts don't care about your feelings. And somebody saying stuff like that would definitely not lie in order to protect a very flimsy and almost shattered worldview.
A public debate.
Well, maybe it's also part of your problem too, because we have from your YouTube videos, Ben Shapiro destroys the abortion argument. Ben Shapiro destroys transgenderism and abortion. Is that not a kind of coarse public discourse?
Well, are those videos labeled by me?
Because you don't really go in deep on this point in this here video, I'm just going to assume that you mean what you always mean when you talk about trans issues.
And your humanity, if you're a transgender person, I am saying that you are not the sex to which you claim to be. You're still a human being, and you're a human being with an issue that I wish you Godspeed in dealing with in whatever way you see fit. But if you are going to dictate to me that I'm supposed to pretend that men are women and women are men, no. My answer is no. I'm not going to modify basic biology because it threatens your subjective sense of what you are.
And while this claim makes a lot of sense to somebody that isn't very informed on transgender issues in the first place, it falls apart like snow that I piss on once compared with actual facts and logic. What I'm really saying is that I want to piss on Ben Shapiro's face. You see, gender refers to the norms that are attributed to somebody's sex. Those things include behavior, action, the emotions that you portray, but also the roles that you are expected to fulfill in society. Sex, on the other hand, is a physical attribute that usually results in somebody having certain gender norms placed upon them. Before you yell at me in the comments and tell me that gender and sex are the same thing, no, they're not. Gender, the term, was literally coined to describe what I just described it as. So please, do your research. Thank you. Moving on, a transgender is a person that does not identify with the gender that is associated with the sex they were assigned at birth. I have yet to meet a transgender person that actually thinks that sex is also a social construct. This idea that trans people do this and try to change basic biology has been created by right-wing politicians and figureheads such as Ben Shapiro. To answer your question, Ben, yes, it is possible. And could you just move on? This talking point is really dated at this point and quite pathetic, if I'm honest. Don't know if you could tell, but that was our first logical fallacy. Right there, strawman fallacy. By exaggerating or just completely fabricating someone's argument, it's much easier to pretend your own position as being reasonable. But this kind of dishonesty serves to undermine honest and rational debate. So yeah, Ben, facts don't care about your feelings. Isn't it kind of impressive how dumb Ben Shapiro made himself look within 9 seconds of this video actually rolling? See what I did there? It's because she's transphobic as well.
Early feminists included women like Mary Wollstonecraft. She wrote a book titled Vindication of the Rights of Men in 1790. That was an attempt to fight the conservatism of Edmund Burke. Basically, Burke was arguing against the French Revolution because he was saying that it was overthrowing these very important institutions and that rights couldn't be constructed out of whole cloth. She was arguing that these institutions are an imposition on women, and it's those institutions that have led to levels of authoritarianism.
Oh, Ben, did you just misrepresent the argument made by a historical figure because they can't actually stand up and defend themselves? That's not very facts don't care about your feelings, Ben. You see, Mary Wollstonecraft didn't actually say anything about women in the vindication of the rights of man when referring to the French Revolution. Mary actually was for the revolution. However, she was never for the revolution because of women's rights or anything like that. Mary Wollstonecraft actually only advocated for basic human and liberal rights. The idea that humans have a right to rights and that if those rights were infringed upon by a higher power, that they should be taken back and that people shouldn't have to wait for big institutions to slowly make change. Mary would only argue for women's rights 2 years later when she wrote a book called The Vindication of the Rights of Women.
It was a very rich ongoing argument, but Wollstonecraft ended up being wrong politically, even if she was right about the rights of women.
women's rights are political, Ben, and her advocating for human rights is also political and also correct. Unless you want a very strict monarchy like back in the day, or even a dictatorship like a lot of fascists would. And you're not a fascist, Ben, are you? Are you?
So Wollstonecraft attached herself to the French Revolution. She led a really troubled personal life. She had affairs and kids out of wedlock and all of this.
Talking badly about somebody's personal life or their personal traits is actually... I don't really understand what point it serves to point out anybody's personal life when it comes to a political debate. Unless, of course, you want to hold this personal life against them in some way. And in that case, I'm wondering, as a person who's seemingly so obsessed with facts, why Ben does this. Did you guys hear that? I think I hear a voice thundering down from the sky.
My son, it is I, your Lord and Savior, saving your boring YouTube video by adding some godly spice.
Oh.
Ben Shapiro is making use of another logical fallacy here.
Uh-huh.
This fallacy being an ad hominem, one of the most pathetic logical fallacies on the market. An ad hominem is if you make a personal attack on someone in order to make their arguments seem weak, or just their arguments in general. In that.
That's blasphemous. Why would he do that?
But her basic notion that women should be granted rights to vote, that was actually in line with basic classical liberal ideals, right? That women should be treated as individuals and they have every power and ability to vote.
Yes, Ben. Well done. To point out that a liberal has liberal ideas, that's so observant of you. If I was your teacher, I'd give you a gold star. Not because you added anything constructive or productive to the conversation, but rather out of pity or for participation, I guess. After all, I'm an empath, and I know that this conclusion must have been very difficult for you to get to. So well done.
In 1848, at the Seneca Falls Convention, you're now fast forwarding half a century, 200 women met at Seneca Falls in New York to talk about their goals. That convention was the unofficial starting point of the first wave feminist movement. Some of the big figures here are Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. The movement was really, really tied to abolitionism. Frederick Douglass actually spoke at the Seneca Falls Convention. Further,
Hey, Ben, I see you. 2 correct things in a row? You're really on a roll here. You might, after all, actually be the king of facts and logic. Notice how Ben points out that when 2 groups that are oppressed by the very same person or type of person, that they usually come together.
Jim is my enemy, but it turns out that Jim is also his own worst enemy. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So Jim is actually my friend.
As you'll see later on in the video, he will forget this very quickly.
further developments within first wave feminism came courtesy of some reformers like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, libertarians.
Benjamin. Libertarianism only came about in the 20th century, so putting that label on anybody that was around before that is not only a lie, but also inaccurate when that person supported socialism. Maybe don't put that label on John Stuart Mill. For now, I'm gonna have to take both of those stars away. On the bright side, the advantage of always being about facts is that in this game, it should be rather easy for you to get back to 2 and even surpass 5. So don't worry, man, you got this. I believe in you.
The second wave feminist movement started to argue that every aspect of life was political and that gender roles were inherently stifling. The only way that women could be free is to forcibly reject those roles.
You see, Ben did tell the truth, and I would give him a star if he didn't leave out a significant portion of the second wave as well, such as the fight against domestic violence, legal inequality, and of course, marital rape. And not, like Ben says, against marriage or motherhood. And to imply that is not only ridiculous, but also makes me wonder what Ben constitutes as marriage.
Hi, camera.
Hello, camera. Girlfriend.
Yes.
I've got myself on a boat. She loves me, I swear. Stop, Mom. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends. Bye.
Is it in the room?
It's in the room. I'm gonna put that in the video if that's cool with you.
You can put it in the video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For the next few minutes, my friend over here, and by friend I mean my source of entertainment, cringe, laugh, and of course, content, talks about a book. And while this book is extremely influential when it comes to feminism, Ben does a terrible job at showing this. Ben constantly cherry picks examples from the book and compares these examples to the animal kingdom.
She wrote, quote, "The female is a woman insofar as she feels herself as such. So it's an interior feeling. Some essential biological givens are not part of her lived situation. For example, the structure of the ovum is not reflected in it. By contrast, an organ of slight biological importance, like the clitoris, plays a primary role in it." So notice how she's redefining womanhood to mean sexual pleasure as opposed to, the most important biological function that any female of any mammalian species performs, namely the bearing of children, right? The truth is that if you're trying to define, just forget about humans, if you're trying to define what is a female, right, the answer is the one that produces the egg. In mammals,
This, by the way, is two different types of logical fallacies at play here. The Texas sharpshooter fallacy and, of course, the appeal to nature fallacy. The Texas sharpshooter fallacy is where somebody cherry picks some data in order to suit their argument or to create some kind of pattern that then can be used against the opposition later on.
She wrote, quote, "The female is a woman insofar as she feels herself as such. So it's an interior feeling. Some essential biological givens are not part of her lived situation. For example, the structure of the ovum is not reflected in it. By contrast, an organ of slight biological importance, like the clitoris, plays a primary role in it."
The appeal to nature, on the other hand, is a fallacy wherein somebody would take an argument or a perspective, compare it to nature in order to strengthen their own argument, because most people believe that nature is inherently good. Obviously, this can also be done in reverse, where somebody would take an argument made by the opposition, compare it to nature, show that it's not true to what nature says, and thus the argument must be bad or invalid.
That if you're trying to define, just forget about humans, if you're trying to define what is a female, right, the answer is the one that produces the egg. In mammals.
Yeah, add those to the counter, I guess. Also, isn't it kind of funny how Ben has more fallacies on his list at this point than he actually has facts? I don't know. Maybe he's not all about facts and logic after all. I know that a lot of people think he's smart, and I don't understand that. I used to think that too, right? When doing this video and, having a Google tab open to research what the fuck he's saying, it becomes so obvious how much he's actually pulling out of his own ass to fearmonger and to try to get people on his side. I don't understand how I used to think this man actually has half a brain cell. So instead of actually going into every single one of his points that, are just flawed to begin with, I'm just gonna skip to his next point, because who knows? He might actually get something right again.
The idea is that women basically shouldn't do the things that typically have characterized women for all of human history, like bearing and rearing children and being wives to husbands. Instead, this makes them into corpses. What really is liberating for women is being just like men, like, going to work and having a job and not being married and not having any responsibility to the next generation.
No, Ben. The idea is actually that women are supposed to have a choice whether or not to do those things, when to do those things, and shouldn't be forced to do those things. The idea is that women have the right to choose how they want to live their life.
This is the argument second wave feminists are making. Contraception, abortion, sexual promiscuity, fluidity of sexual behavior, abolition of the family. Then you get
personal incredulity, a logical fallacy where you don't explain a complex topic to someone who may not know the topic all too well, using their lack of knowledge to make an opposing argument out to be nonsensical. For example, Ben will say,
"This is the argument second wave feminists are making. Contraception,
sure, yeah,
abortion."
Yes, please. So far, so good, Ben. Look at that. 2 stars again.
Sexual promiscuity.
Oh no. Ben, what happened? You see, when Kate Millett talks about extramarital affairs, she's not actually talking about promiscuity here. She is simply talking about a consensual, open relationship between two people. The two are not the same.
Fluidity of sexual behavior.
I mean, I guess, but not really. Some feminists do support this. This is in large part due to the thing I mentioned earlier, where two oppressed groups that have the same oppressor usually come together. But it's still not all feminists.
Abolition of the family.
At the time, I guess this was true for quite a few feminists, so I'll let it slide. That brings you all the way to 1.5 stars, of which half is more pity than anything yet again. So after quoting 2 books and just making a mockery of their points, For a couple minutes, Ben moves on. What surprised me is that he just completely left out all the advances that women actually made during this time. So in order to honor them, I'm just gonna go through them very quickly. The Equal Pay Act, which illegalized businesses from paying women less than men for the same labor. The Equal Credit Act, which made it illegal to deny women loans or credit cards on the basis of them being women. Roe versus Wade, which legalized abortions, and as we all know, was unfortunately overturned very recently. I'm not Benny over here, right? But if I was him and I did make a video on the history of feminism, I feel like I would mention the advancements made by every single wave. Maybe little Benny over here is actually doing this purposefully in order to reach a shitty conclusion later on. Who knows? Ooh, foreshadowing.
People sort of posit that the third wave feminist movement begins in the 70s and continues until today. There's some people who try to date the third wave feminist movement from the 70s until like the 2010s. Ill-defined, but even more radical than second wave.
Listen, Ben, let's just be real here. I know that you like the sound of your own voice, even though it sounds like
Someone is constantly holding your nose closed.
And I know that you like to think that you're smart because you use big words and have a thesaurus in your back pocket, but the reality is you're not. And if you were, you'd know that the third wave of feminism started during the 90s. Now, it could be that we have a different source, but when just Googling when did third wave feminism start, I get 90s much more than I get 70s. So either you ignored this purposefully or you're stupid. Which is it, Ben? It's giving disingenuous. It's giving my feelings are too sensitive for facts. Back to zero. You just really can't stop lying, can you, Ben? And you might say, Oscar, aren't you just being petty now? And I would say to whoever thought that, well, actually, Ben is making use of another logical fallacy here, known as ambiguity. And you, being the NPC that you are with an extremely tight dialogue tree, would say, why does it matter if he said the 70s? Like you said, maybe you just use different sources. After all, it's very difficult to date these kind of things. And I would respond in a very smug manner, because you said exactly what I want you to say. I obviously don't have a degree when it comes to dwarf telepathy or a degree in anything at that, but I can make a very educated guess. You see, the thing is, right, if you grow up extremely privileged, for example, as a white person, and even more so if you're a white man, you don't really experience bigotry. And that's great for us, but it also makes a large portion of us extremely ignorant and blind to bigotry. To a lot of us, bigotry died when slavery ended, when black people got rights, when women got rights. If one of these privileged and ignorant boys sees people complain about bigotry, to them this doesn't really seem valid. To them this seems as if the person is trying to victimize themselves, and this irritates them, and understandably so. After all, nobody really likes an attention seeker. And the reason I know this so well is because I used to be one of them. I used to think that saying slurs ironically was funny when really I was just being racist, let's be real. And then I would get upset when people actually called me on my shit, and I wouldn't understand why, because after all, I'm just doing it ironically. It's funny, guys, haha. Luckily for myself, and of course the people that I said some pretty terrible things to, I woke up. If you want a whole video of me just, talking about my problematic past and how I got there, I'd love to make one. I've been thinking about making one for a while now, so if you are interested, comment section, please let me know. I want to hear your thoughts. You may be wondering why I went off on that tangent in the first place. The reason is that people like me, or like the person that I was, are extremely ignorant, and they think that these things are issues of the past. And Ben pushing third wave feminism further into the past than it really is adds to that narrative. And the reason he did this is just that. He wants to make feminism look like something that was necessary in the past in order to paint modern feminism as something useless, as something that doesn't really serve a purpose. Ben is gonna keep adding to the narrative that feminism is useless throughout the video, and you'll see exactly what I mean, and I'll point it out to you in case you don't. Let's just continue and watch this They could embarrass himself some more, I guess.
Feminism extended beyond the idea of the female entirely, and now argued that gender was entirely performative. It's just a role. It was disconnected from sex. Men could be women could be men. The trans movement is an outgrowth of third wave feminism. It sounds like Shulamith Firestone. So is the idea of total androgyny, replacing gender altogether. Now the early
No, Benjamin Buttons, you silly boy. You get an F in this class, and the F does not stand for facts. It stands for fucking moron. Third wave feminism wasn't just about gender issues. It tackled a number of issues that you failed to mention in order to add to your narrative. So I'm just gonna quickly read those down for you. Third wave feminism yet again focused on reproductive rights and getting rid of negative stereotypes that surround women to this day. The third wave also made it a point to include more women of color, since the first two waves were criticized for being, a bit exclusive in that regard. What really makes me, doubt this Oompa Loompa's cognitive abilities, or even the fact that he has more than one brain cell, is the fact that although earlier he saw a clear link between abolitionists and feminists, now he completely fails to see the link between gender politics and feminism. They were happening at the same time, they were both oppressed by the same group of people, so naturally they would work together, Ben. Why can't you see that anymore? Did your pattern recognition just go out the window?
Good logical reasoning here.
you know what? He just left.
According to your current logic, your current facts and logic, my bad, this would mean that the first wave of feminism was all about abolishing slavery, when in reality that's just not true. And you know it, Ben. So why are you lying? Then he goes on to talk about Judith Butler and her book she actually released during the right time period for once, and her take on gay theory. He yet again goes on to then apply this to feminism. And if diverting from the topic that he actually wanted to educate us on, like a toddler trying to tell a story, wasn't bad enough, but he completely misrepresents them. And usually I just skip over this because it's not really relating to the topic, but he's just so dumb that I just wanted to clear the whole mess up.
So she argued for total gender fluidity, full individual's pursuit of self-definition. You can be fully biologically male, you can be a female, or you can be nothing, right? You can be just a gender non-binary cat. You can be whatever you want to be.
Funny. Yes, but not funny, haha. Funny, weird.
She says society has to approve and celebrate such self-definition because, quote, we are not carving out a place for autonomy if by autonomy we mean a state of individuation, taking as self-persisting prior to and apart from any relations of dependency on the world of others. So what she's saying there is that true autonomy means I get to define myself any which way I choose, and you have to clap. And if you don't clap, you're denying my identity.
Ben, you're being dumb again. Well, Ben, let's read the whole quote together, shall we? When we assert our right, as we do and we must, we are not carving out a place for our autonomy. If by autonomy we mean a state of individuation, taken as self-persisting prior to and apart from any relations of dependency on the world of others. We do not negotiate with norms or with others subsequent to our coming into this world. We come into the world on the condition that the social world is already there, laying the groundwork for us. This implies that I cannot persist without norms of recognition that support my persistence. The sense of possibility pertaining to me must be imagined from somewhere else before I can begin to imagine myself. So Benny, I know that you have the stature and the brain of a toddler, so I'm going to simplify this for you. After all, philosophy and big words and anything intellectual really isn't really your strong suit. What Butler is really saying is that since we live in a society where the sex that we are assigned at birth influences how people treat us greatly and is binary in nature, she feels as though she is very limited when it comes to expressing herself, since her expression of gender doesn't fit that of most people. She also states that someone else has to show her a form of gender expression she identifies with before she can start to be herself. Now, in no way, shape or form is she saying jump up and clap. And the people that are asking to be recognized for their preferred gender are also not asking you to do that, Ben. When somebody goes up to you and tells you, hey, my name is Oscar and my pronouns are they, them, that doesn't mean you have to stand up, applaud them, or do anything else that may be out of the ordinary. All people want from you, Ben, is for you to respect them, to show them human decency. And Ben, if human decency really takes that much out of you, I'm not only concerned, but I also think that you are morally bankrupt. And even though this may go against your moral compass, that doesn't give you the right to upset people. Imagine it like this. It's like referring to somebody by the wrong name on purpose the whole time. Now that wouldn't feel great if somebody did it to you, Ben, right? I didn't think so. So maybe just try. And even though I just took the moral high ground, I will not be doing that anymore. In this entire video from here on out, I will be referring to you either as Benja, Benjamin, or Benjamina for the sake of it. I hope you enjoy, Ben. Oh, Benja.
Identity.
So with that, after talking about gay theory and not feminism one bit, we move on into the next wave of feminism, yet again not mentioning a single advancement made by feminists during this time.
Fourth wave is basically the idea we're now beyond gender completely, we're now beyond sex completely, and now it's about political power and how we form coalitions of the oppressed under intersectionality.
So according to my good friend Benja over here, this is what fourth wave feminism is. According to Wikipedia, it's about women speaking up about the abuse and sexual violence they have endured at the hands of men. It also, as Ben already mentioned, emphasizes intersectionality, my goodness. It also, as Ben already mentioned, emphasizes intersectionality by, for example, looking for representation of minorities in mainstream media. Good thing I can read this. And thirdly, and this may surprise you if you watch people like Ben Shapiro, fourth wave feminism also advocates for breaking down the gender norms for men. Those being things like boys don't cry or the man has to be the breadwinner. This is an attempt to tackle the mental health crisis that affects men. Basically the same things that men's rights activists always spout in your face whenever you just mention feminism. So just judging by the fact that Ben completely missed the point when it comes to what fourth wave feminism is really about, I already know that this entire segment will be nothing but bullshit, and I'll be damned if he actually makes a simple, honest point.
We have to see how issues of race and issues of class intersect with issues of gender and sexuality.
Hey guys, Ben just got something right. Well, not really. Almost though. He did talk about social hierarchies. However, he talked about them as if they were some kind of conspiracy.
And it's kind of a mishmash, and this is how you end up with the Pride Progress flag with like everything in it.
Rather than, you know, things proven by science, almost like facts and, I don't know, logic. So yeah, still not quite, but I guess almost. For somebody who takes such great pride in being all about logic, you sure seem to have a very emotional bias against anything related to feminism or, you know, progressive culture at that. And as we know, emotions don't really have a place when it comes to rational debate.
Okay, so we went from the feminist movement directed toward something, namely achievement of rights for particular individuals, toward a movement directed against. And the movement directed against is all tradition. It is biology. It is reality. It is language. It is your ability to speak freely.
How? How, Ben? Please explain what traditions you're talking about. Are you talking about the tradition of gender violence? The tradition of suppressing your feelings as a man until you feel so alone in this world that you kill yourself? The tradition of not respecting other people's wishes? What is it, Ben? What traditions are you talking about?
It is language. It is your ability to speak freely.
Political correctness is taking over the freedom of speech. Bro, shut the fuck up. People don't openly accept bigotry anymore. I don't see how that's a bad thing, Ben. Why are you complaining about that? If there's so many people that are offended by what you're saying, and you personally think that you're not being offensive, then maybe, just maybe, fucking do some introspection. We also have a freedom of speech, and just because we commentate on the shit that you say doesn't mean anyone's trying to silence you. We're just trying to fucking educate the people that you are making dumber. And let's just assume for a minute that we still allowed these forms of bigotry to run wild in our daily and political discourse. Then answer me this, Ben. Why? Why the fuck do you want to be an asshole so damn badly? Oh, it hurts. hurts. It actually hurts. Since you're not here and can't actually answer these questions, I'm just going to assume that all of this is simply a result or side effect of small man syndrome.
Problem is, of course, that does not generate anything remotely like human happiness, which is why you see skyrocketing rates of simultaneous self-identification as LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign.
Oh my god, Benjamin, you're so funny. Wait, Benja, I have a joke as well. You wanna hear it? What's the opposite of a woman's orgasm? Can you guess? Ben Shapiro.
And simultaneous skyrocketing rates of mental illness and suicidal ideation, specifically in areas that take these sorts of ideas incredibly seriously.
People who are not straight already have a very tough time accepting themselves, and when other people that are not them also don't accept them, this is what affects their mental health. You are the reason, Ben, not the fact that they have a different sexuality to you. You are the reason that the suicide rates in the LGBTQ community are as high as they are. If you really did care about facts, Ben, you would know that. And you do, but you just don't care about facts. In conclusion today, Ben Shapiro is an emotional wreck who is entirely dictated by emotion, but likes to put up a pretense to his audience that he's dictated by reason and logic, when that simply isn't true. He spreads information like there's no tomorrow. He then tries to cover his tracks by using big words instead of actually, providing us with evidence like I did in this here video. And he uses a huge number of logical fallacies in every single one of his videos, more than anybody that claims to be dictated by reason and logic ever should. This man is the reason why a lot of people on the internet are radicalized, and he will continue to be the main reason why a lot of people on the internet are radicalized. You will never hear him admit this, but he's a raging bigot and a fascist. Thank you guys, until next time, and cheers. Thanks for 100 subs, love ya. Mwah.